Hello, friends. Welcome to day 3 of the Built to Last Masterclass. So this is our last day, and I think it is one of the most important days and the most important aspects of actually building your community. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good night. I literally love so much how Web3 just basically allows us to be all over the place, but also together. And literally we can impact the world together. So I'm just so happy to be here with you. I'm so thankful that you have made it this far. Turn off the music a little bit. And I hope that you truly have gotten something out of this. For me, it has been like all of these master classes, whether they're free, whether they're paid, I pour my soul out to them. I try to channel as much as I can. I try to be as inspired as possible and try to give you as much value as possible. So I hope that you have felt that. Okay, so before we hop in, just a quick reminder that this is the last day, and this is going to be the day that I draw the winner for the launch masterclass. So whoever I draw is going to get free access to the launch program, which will be in about 2 weeks. This is going to be the flagship program, and you will have, okay, so this is it's March 18th. So this is going to come up tonight, and you're going to have a full week to watch all of the videos along the way. I'm also going to open up a thread to any questions. So there'll also be a Q&A video within that week where you guys can come and you can listen to just kind of get more into details about what people still had questions on. So make sure you fill that out if you want in on that. The launch program, I'm going to talk more about this at the end, but make sure you stay and watch. I don't want to, take up too much time up front, but there is an opportunity for a really, really great deal if you purchase by March 25th. And full transparency here, today's been crazy. So I took my kids to the doctor and we had to get tested for COVID, but there I actually just decided to get my booster COVID shot because I haven't, I was due. And holy crap, I am feeling it now. Not just the arm, so the sore arm, but I am fading fast. So I have my notes in front of me. I will be looking down at them just to make sure I can keep it together. All right. So I am just so excited to get started. Day 1 was all about foundations. Day 2 is getting people into your Discord, into your community. And day 3 is about getting your soul family in there and getting them to stay. So I don't know if you saw my tweet the other day, but I was like, and this masterclass made me think of it because I kept on saying ideal buyers, ideal clients, but really it's no, I hate those terms, especially for Web3. So I asked Twitter and somebody came up with soul tribe, which I liked, but I'm actually really liking either soul friends or soul family. And somebody else mentioned friends or family. So I was going to put those two together. So when I say soul family, I mean the people who are just your ideal people that are going to be in your community, that are going to purchase your NFTs literally for the rest of time. All right. So I'm going to break this all down for you, but I want to start off by saying this. And it's what the ultimate goal of what you are trying to accomplish in your group when it comes to your soul family. It's going back to day 1 of the foundation. So I kind of already touched on this, but it is why it's so deeply, it has to do with why it's so deeply ingrained in our epigenetics, in our DNA, and why we are in groups. And that ultimate reason is that people want to feel safe. And as a community leader, your ultimate goal is to create a safe space, a safe container for people to show up in. And the difference between now and at the beginning of time, there is a difference because obviously the beginning of time is all about literal survival of literally life and death. But now it has, as we progress and just with our times now, the ultimate safety, the ultimate feeling of safety, I should say, is the highest expression of oneself, one being able to show up truly and authentically. People desperately want to feel safe where they can show up authentically as their true selves. This is something that we deeply, deeply need. We deeply, deeply want, and that our souls deeply want. But there are hardly any places that actually make this their priority and actually make it happen. So yes, your group needs to be fun. Nobody wants to be bored. And we're going to talk about all of that. It needs to provide value and create moments of connection with your soul family as a whole. That will be more towards the end, but the magic will happen when you create a space that allows your soul family to feel safe at the highest expression of themselves, at their true self. That's what I mean when I say highest expression, is their true authentic self, the self that they can't always be, sometimes even by themselves, but they can't always be with their partner. They can't always be with their friends. The ultimate true self, the self that, maybe there are parts of that they feel ashamed of or feel embarrassed. Like, we want to bring it all out and just celebrate it all and make people feel safe. This is incredibly hard to do and incredibly hard to master. And some people might never actually be able to feel safe. Like, there's nothing that you'll be able to do until they internally do the work. But it is up to you to have that container for them when they are ready, or at least have it for them, ready for them, for where they are at right now. So maybe they can't be fully expressed right now, but there's a little piece that can come out and they feel safe with you doing that. And that will be the game changer. Most of the time, though, people just need that container, that safe space. They've never been able to have it before. And they might not even know that they've been needing it or wanting it. But going through just my self-exploration, my self-evolvement, and working with groups in the past, that is something that when people get a little taste of that, it is so addicting, and they want more, and they crave that. They just crave being authentic with themselves. So before the how of how we actually do this, let's get into why this is so important. When people feel safe, they are not in flight, fight, or freeze mode. People are usually in one of those three states. And it's when they go to one of those three states when they don't feel totally safe. Okay. It can look like many different things and many different facets, but how it sometimes shows up in communities is when people get really defensive in your group, when they easily take things the wrong way, when they're judging other people. Maybe they are having a problem and they don't feel comfortable enough to say anything to you as the group leader. That could be something, or they just leave, and all of those are very deadly to a community and very toxic. So you want to make sure that you're taking them out of this fight or flight or freeze state that they're in. And it could be that they're totally in it. It could be that they're just in a little bit. I feel like most times, like, we're kind of like always in it just a tiny bit. But again, creating that safe space. So being safe, or I should say feeling safe. So there's a difference between being safe and actually feeling safe. So somebody can be safe, but not feel totally safe. So we want to make sure that we're tapping in to them feeling safe, not just being like, oh, I checked all the boxes and they're safe. No, they need to feel safe. And that allows your soul family to be open to connecting deeply with you, connecting deeply with others, with your purpose. And it allows them to actually listen. And when they're actually listening, you can, I don't even say sell, because I don't even like the word sell. You can offer them an opportunity to come to the next level with you by purchasing an NFT or being more ingrained in your community in some level, whether it be through one way or whether it be through actually purchasing an NFT. But they are paying attention. And that's what you want. And through all aspects of their buying journey, whether they're going to buy or not, you want them to be paying attention. You want them to be hearing and connecting. It is so much harder for people to listen to you, to buy, to advocate for you when they don't feel safe. And when they're able to connect with you and your collection, they are able to just connect with it on a much deeper level. Okay. So let me check my notes. Okay. Yeah. So here's how to create safety. There's going to be 4 things. Yeah, I would say 4 buckets. So we have one, we have having the deeper understanding of what they need and who they are. That's going to be one place to master. Having a deep understanding of what they want and who they are. Number 2 is going to be consistency. Number 3 is going to be truth and transparency. And then number 4 is fierce boundaries. So number 1, let's get into that first, having a deep understanding of what they want and who they are. This is why I talk about getting extremely clear on who belongs in your soul family, because when you're clear, you start to create that container of safety. It's turning inward of what you've gone through in the past that can help bring them forth. So turning inward and going through what you've been through in the past, being open to the lessons that you've learned, that's how you can figure out what they need, what they want, and how they can feel safe. So, obviously our purpose and our collection is tied to very much of what we've been through, of what our ideals are. So, which is kind of nice for us, because in this regards, we can take a lot of what we've been through and our learnings, or maybe it's something that you personally want. Maybe it's not. It also comes from listening, from deeply listening to people in your Discord, listening in on those Twitter spaces like we talked about, listening with empathy, trying to be empathetic, trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and trying to figure out what they're going through. All right. So looking at it through a different lens other than your own. You can also get to this point by seeing trends that you want to break. What you don't like about your industry is a good one, or other collections. Maybe there's something that you don't like about other Discords that you can learn from, that, they have the same, audience, and maybe they're getting the same comments, but nobody's really doing anything about it. It's all being like very spyish, which I personally love. And then you just figure out, like, how can I make this better? And honestly, it just comes from asking yourself why, but asking them why. Okay. A lot of times, if you're really paying attention, you'll be able to pull things out that they didn't even realize that they wanted or needed. But just by speaking with them, you start to get the same trends, and you start to see actions in your Discord. Yeah. So there are times, and the best thing is to just listen and to ask and figure out what they need. And the best thing that you could do, like when you hit this like awesome, like holy grail of like, oh my gosh, like this is what's happening. Like, this is what I can do for my community. You'll see it, like people will be like, oh my gosh, holy shit, I didn't even notice that before, or I wasn't even paying attention to that, but you're right. It's kind of like when you are walking down the street and somebody smiles at you. It's just a small gesture like that, and it makes your day, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize like how much I needed that. Like, I feel good today. Or, if you're racing a 3-mile or 5-mile race, and at like race or at mile 3 there's water, and you're like, yes, I needed that. They knew. Thank you. I'm trying to think what else, but yeah. And of course it can be the little gestures too. This goes deep, but I also don't want this to distract you or stop you from moving forward. It can start with little gestures. And then once, you grow your community, you get to know them more and more, you can get a little bit deeper. You can pay more attention to them. They'll probably start talking a little bit more. You can ask them questions. Just make sure you listen. All right. Okay. So this part might not come right away, but one day it will click, or it might just be that you do one thing and it's a little bit surface level. It does well, but then over time, it will evolve, if that makes sense. So overall, we just want to make sure that we are fully paying attention to our wants and needs of our community through Discord conversations. And again, you might find it and then it could flow somewhere else. It usually will flow just a little bit over time. I mean, even with current events, things pop up like Russia and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. People might need just a safe space to vent, to come to. All right. So just being very mindful of what people are going through as a whole, as it is as it is in regards to your purpose, but also just what's going in their everyday lives. So always be checked in and tuned in with your collective soul family. Listen, be empathetic, which I think I already touched on. Tell them you hear them and move forward with what's best for the collective. So make sure they know that the channels of communication are open. You might not always go with what they have requested, but always know that you've heard them. And if you haven't moved forward, they should know exactly why you haven't. We just do not want them to feel like they've been totally neglected. Okay. We want them to make sure that they feel heard and seen. The last thing we want is for somebody to feel bitter or neglected. That gets people not just leaving, but talking shit and just having a really bad taste in their mouths about you. And, it's okay to have people like that just because the brand doesn't align with them, but you don't want anybody feeling like that because you have neglected them or they felt like, they've been neglected or they've been promised something and you haven't fulfilled the promise. All right. So foster opportunities for connection, start creating that in there, start small and you will start seeing the bigger things. Just even the opportunity to hold space for these people to talk about whatever they want, whatever they need to talk about. That is helping them serve these people at this time and is helping you understand more of what they need. All right. So to be able to hold this type of space, you need to be present. You need to be kind. You need to have deep listening skills and sit with what is, like, take it in. And if there is something that people are, I don't want to say being negative about, but giving you constructive feedback, don't just sweep it under the rug. Don't minimize it. Really take it to heart, right? Have compassion. So holding space, I want to talk about that too. And I'm not even going to get into that. That's a whole other masterclass, but people ask this all the time, like, what does that mean? It's just a conscious act of being present for somebody, being open and allowing them to express themselves and being protective of what each person needs in that moment. And again, it's about what they need, what they want, not what you think is what they need, and of course you're going to have your stipulations going in there, but what we don't want is to be like, all right, I know this type of person. I was there like 2 years ago and this is exactly what they need without ever running it by anybody. You want to make sure you're talking about it to somebody and really making sure that it's across the board, or at least it's a huge trend. Because if you don't get that right, then it's just everything you say is just going to go on deaf ears. It really is. And so all this effort that you put in is going to be for nothing. Okay, so let's move on to number 2, consistency. Consistency is everything. Consistency with how you are showing up, when you're showing up, your messaging, your vibe, your container vibe, especially. And again, you can start small. Maybe it's just every day you show up and you're saying, hey, GM, everybody, GM, good morning. That will eventually become a habit. And then you can kind of go from there. What I see is that people get very overwhelmed with having to do all these things, especially coming out of master classes like this. We have a bunch of notes. Pick one thing, just work on that one thing. And then once you get that done, it doesn't matter how long or fast it takes, you can go on to the next. So I want to think about this. Okay. So let's say that you went to dinner one night and it was a new restaurant and it was amazing. It blew your mind. So maybe you're eating, I don't know, shrimp scampi, and it was just the sauce, the butter sauce just was the most decadent thing you've ever tasted. The next time you come back and you might get something else and it was a little bland, like you didn't really like it that much. And then the next time you come back and it was just like there was raw meat, and then you come back again and it was amazing again. And then you're back again and it's just kind of like another crappy dinner, I don't know, maybe you have like raw chicken, eventually you would get fed up and not go back. Like, yes, you might go back right away because there are some things that were really good about it, some things that weren't, but the more you go, it's just kind of like, all right, you don't know what you're going to get. Nobody wants to go somewhere where they don't know if they're going to get good service, bad service, good food, bad food. So most of the successful restaurants, if you even check in your city, they are successful because they are consistent. Their food might not even be mind-blowing, but you know that you're going to show up. You are going to be greeted by the hostess with such a friendly smile. They're going to talk to you on the way to the table. You might have to wait a little bit. That's okay, because you know it's worth the wait. You know that maybe if they have an extra long wait, they're going to come around with, free appetizers, free cocktails. And then you know you're going to get the fries because they're perfectly seasoned all the time and you love their seasoning. So the same thing is with your group. Consistency will always, always, always pay off, especially when it comes to delivery of an experience. So we talked about getting your people into your group yesterday, and a lot of that was talking about what is going on and talking about it to your following in Twitter. So consistency is really important here too. If you're hyping something up, an event that you've only done once and you're like, okay, we're going to do this like every week. And then people come expecting this every week and it's been, 2 months and nothing's happened. That's when people are going to start feeling like something is off. They're going to start leaving. They're going to not be really excited at all. You guys, when somebody leaves your Discord, it's very hard to get them back. So you want them in and you want them to stay. And by doing that is getting them there, but also fulfilling that with being consistent on your promise. If you break the promise, if you break your consistency, the trust is broken and it's not the best experience. And if it stays inconsistent, then people will absolutely leave. Maybe you're pushing how positive your community is, but too often there are people in there spreading FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. If that's the case, just these things are feeling off. And even if people aren't like, oh, like that's not consistent, that feels off, they're going to subconsciously feel that like the energy is just not going to be clean. There's a break in the chain, let's say that, like the link or the energetic core that we talked about. So you've been working on creating this beautiful energetic cord between you and these people, this connection cord for your soul family, your soul friends. And you want to make sure that that stays really strong. And you want to make sure that it's staying squeaky clean. So if there are muddy pipes, if the pipes are clogged, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a lot harder for the water to flow through those pipes. Same thing with this cord. It needs to be squeaky clean energetically so that there's a really good flow going and it's, not getting like stuttered along the way, or it's not like trying to push through and then it stops and then it pushes through. You want to make sure it's just like a complete, consistent flow. So yeah, think about it. Nobody wants a friend that is unreliable, when sometimes, maybe they are like the sweetest and then sometimes they fly off the handle. That doesn't feel good for anybody. And that just nobody wants that in their lives at all. All right. So that's consistency. The third one, which to me is so incredibly important, is truth and transparency. Truth and transparency are everything. This does overlap a little bit with consistency. And, if for some reason you can't be consistent at a certain point in time, don't pretend to be. Like, it's okay. Like sometimes we have our off days or off weeks. For me, for example, like I had to push this back a little bit because I had to take my sons to the doctor. But I came in there first thing in the morning and I told you guys like, hey, this is going to be later. I came on here. I'm like, hey, I'm not feeling the best, but I'm feeling good enough to give this masterclass to my, at my ultimate highest self, but I'm going to be using my notes, just because I feel like my brain is a little bit fuzzier than normal. So again, just be transparent and just always be completely truthful. That will always set you free and always keep your group containers, again, very squeaky clean energetically. As someone is asking about your community or asking why they should buy your NFT over someone else's, tell the truth. Maybe it's not for them. You don't want to just kind of like, sell people into it, because it's going to be a disservice to you, your community, the floor price, everybody, this person. And you want to be transparent, and that is going to be key to keeping around the right people, keeping your soul family really tight, and keeping the people who aren't the right fit out. Again, like you don't want people here for the short term. This is for the long term. And it's directly going to affect everything in your community, especially if you're looking to build out more communities, sell more NFT collections. This is really for the long haul. So, I mean, and I tell people all the time, I say, you do not want to work with me if you're not willing to show up for your own community, if you're not willing to put in the work for the rest of your life when it comes to NFT collections. I can tell right away if people are just like, oh, I want somebody to do this all for me, and I want this to sell out, versus like, I want somebody to help me show up as the best version of myself for my community. Very different there. And I will be straight up if somebody is not the right fit. And in the end, it's better for all of us. So yeah, I'm just not down with people who don't take their community seriously and the people inside their community seriously, as you can obviously tell. Things will always come up. The bigger your collection, that's going to be a bigger community typically, and the bigger the issues of what you're going to take on. So just keep that in mind and be open to that. Just know. And again, it's really getting the root of not sweeping anything under the rug, just being open and say, yes, let's take this on. Let's ask your questions. Okay, you're feeling a little uneasy. Let's bring this up. Everyone's feeling uneasy. This is an elephant in the room. Let's not make it an elephant. Let's bring it to the forefront. Let's squash it. My son has a book and it says, oh my gosh, what's it called? Something about like a worry. And basically the lesson is there's this little like ball that follows this girl around, and it's a worry ball. And the more she doesn't talk about it, the bigger it grows. And she realizes that once she talks about it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears, until it doesn't show up as much, until it basically completely goes away. It's the same thing here. Just talk about it, or else it's just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to be harder to get rid of. All right. What else do I want to talk about for this? Oh yeah, the bigger the issues, the more transparent you're going to have to be, the more upfront you're going to have to be, the more ahead of things you're going to get. And again, it can be small. It can be, hey, we're, looking between collaborating with these two people. One feels a little bit off for me. What do you guys think? Let's help us along. Or, ooh, like that was a really bad tweet on my part. I didn't realize how out of context that was going to get taken. I didn't realize how maybe, it just offended somebody. I didn't realize like I was going to offend somebody. Like that was my fault. Own it, be transparent, say sorry, move on. All right. So you want to look at your communities or your group. You look at your group like a garden. So your container is the soil, your soul family is the seeds, and you need to make sure that soil is fertile. Are you giving it nutrients? Are you giving it water? Are you giving it sunlight? Nourish the shit out of your people, for all of these things, like everything that we've talked about, everything that we're going to talk about, but nourish, nourish, nourish. All right. Okay. So the last pillar is about having fierce boundaries. Do not let anyone get away, even if it's just the littlest bit, when it comes to your core values or your purpose. Now, I'm not talking about like, oh, you wrote a post in the wrong Discord, like, bye, you're getting banned. I'm talking about the pillars of your foundation that your collection and your purpose stand on. Those need to be steadfast. All right. So if you are saying that, you are accepting like all LGBTQIA+, that needs to happen. One thing, even if they know it or not, if they're saying something that is homophobic, they are gone. You need to fix it. You need to lock it up. You need to, again, be transparent. Let people know that, yes, you let that slip through. Take ownership. Everything that happens in your community, how everybody feels in your community is all on you. As a community owner, you just have to know that you are there, and anything that comes up, it is your responsibility to make sure that it is cleaned up. Okay. And cleaned up appropriately. So, I mean, even if it's small, like, if your community is all about unicorns and how unicorns are real, and, somebody's coming in here and telling everybody that they're not real. If that is a core pillar, a core purpose of your community, they're probably not the right fit. Like, again, keep it squeaky clean. This is probably the number one for people feeling safe in your community, is really having those boundaries and really sticking to them. And sticking to them is going to create that trust, and that trust is going to create safety. People are so afraid to keep boundaries. I think this is something that we need to talk about too. because they don't want to ruffle feathers. And again, as a community leader, as an NFT leader, you are stepping into this role and need to embody the role of leader. All right. So we all have to act like leaders, even when it is like a little awkward, but that's your promise to your community. Everything in Web3 is based on promises. It truly is. There's so much trust that is needed between all the rug pulls, whether it's just going into your community to you're going to be there no matter what happens in your NFT collection. Your promise is everything. All right. And it all starts with this. Yeah. So think about it this way. So let's say that you were, I don't know, in a group therapy session, or, they're promising no judgment, but you walk in and you sit down and you tell your story, and suddenly people start whispering and laughing. The likelihood that you are going to feel good and want to stay and want to go back is slim to none. Even if you're eating like out at a girls' lunch, if you're going to this girls' lunch and it's maybe like a newer group and people are like, you say something and people automatically just like turn and whisper and laugh, that's not going to feel good. Which actually brings up a really good point that I do want to mention, that I do want to harp on for a second, is your rules and boundaries sometimes need to be very specific. Not all the times, but sometimes. So instead of saying, hey, treat people with respect when they're talking, maybe you're setting the stage for a Twitter space or a Discord space. You want to say that, and you're going to say them not in that way. Instead of saying, hey, treat everyone with respect who is talking, you're going to say, give them your full attention. No talking when they are speaking. Put all your, well, I guess this one makes sense for that. I was going to say, put all your phones away, but put everything down what you're doing and really listen. Maybe it's a guest in your Discord community. Like, pull out your notes, ask really thoughtful questions. All right. That way that there is no gray area on any of the rules. So if the rules are broken, it's literally can't be like, oh, well, I didn't know like that's what that meant. It is very black and white. And that actually helps you be more confident and not wanting to ruffle the feathers. Because it's not like, oh, you're making a gray area judgment. You're like, no, this was listed. And this literally states in the rules that if you do this, there are no exceptions, you are out. All right. So just go back through your rules in your Discord and make sure like those are in place. You want to make sure that there is zero confusion. And again, you don't need to be like crazy about all the specifics and every single thing that could happen. Maybe it's not even your general rules. Maybe it is for, like I said, a speaking in group, but just making sure that you do have something in place where it can be a little bit more black and white. So yeah, safety. It's all about feeling safe, not being safe, like I said, and they need to, your soul family, your soul tribe, your soul friends, they need to feel safe physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, all the ways, which I'm trying to tap into all this. So like, obviously physically is, you guys are away from each other, you're all digital, so it's not a huge thing, but mentally, like what's going on? Like, what are people saying? Or what are people saying that are, that emotionally could take a toll on them? Or again, energetically, like that leads back to you making sure everything is squeaky clean. So energetically, they feel 100% safe. I hope that energetic part makes some sense. All right. So those are the 4 pillars of safety or of trust, of creating safety and trust. Okay. So that is one big bulk of it. The second bulk is to have fun, of course, to celebrate, and just leading the way on showing up as your authentic self. Like the first part was like, probably, it was like, I guess, very rulish and very, very deep. But this does need to be fun. When people see that you are showing up as your authentic self, seeing you yourself having fun, everybody else having fun, celebrating, they are magnetized to that. They are attracted to that and want to follow suit, and they want to stay in that energy. That's huge. When they feel that energy, it's like they don't want to leave. It's a party that is just so much fun that you don't want to leave at night. It is that Twitter space when you're like, oh my gosh, I have work to do, but I'm just so enthralled in this conversation, in this community. All right. So it's really setting that too. So I'm not going to go into all of the details about all the possibilities of what you can do in your Discord, because it is endless. The fun in there is endless. It could be anything from different classes like wine nights, book clubs, literally everything. But I think that the truth of it is that it all goes back to not this list that I would give you, going back to speaking to your people to figure out what exactly they want and what they want in that moment in time. So you have, like, that's more like, I guess the biggest takeaway and where this all stems from is knowing exactly what your soul family wants. And you can also celebrate them. People will leave your group if they feel left out or if they feel bored. When people show up, especially if they show up in a way that aligns with your group and your purpose, celebrate them to the world on Twitter and the Discord, make them feel seen and heard. And don't be boring. I think it just goes back to that as well. Like, people, like, there's so many groups out there that are boring, spice it up a little bit. And yeah, so okay, hold on, I lost my train of thought. What's next on the list? Yeah, so basically just do what they really want to do what sets their soul on fire, what makes them feel really, really good. And then when they show up in that energy, celebrate them for being themselves, for doing something incredible, for doing something authentic. Make them feel good for just showing up and being themselves. Give them the permission slip to be themselves. Give yourself the permission slip to be yourself. How good does that feel just to hear that? Give yourself the permission slip to be yourself. I love that so much. It gets me so excited just to even talk about that. It feels so good. And we are so early in this Web3 space. We get to set the standard. We get to set the bar. We can set it low, or we can set it so damn high that everyone else who has to come into this space is going to have to elevate with us. So let's make this promise to elevate ourselves so we can elevate our communities, the people in our communities, our soul family, and so that we can, elevate this world. To me, that is what Web3 is all about. When this is done authentically, a successful brand community has a magnetism that transcends the actual NFT that they are purchasing. When done authentically, so everything that we've talked about, showing up, trying to understand, creating a safe space, having fun, trying to fully be empathetic and understand what people need and want at this time, and taking in all of their requests and recommendations to heart, that is going to be huge. And you, again, showing up authentically, there is something that is magnetic about that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, there's a reason why there's some people who could have the exact same program, the exact same type of NFT collection, doing the exact same marketing, have very different results. And it really goes back to being that authentic and magnetic self. Again, that's probably like another masterclass. Okay, so that is going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you really gets your wheels turning. So first and foremost, what can you do? What rules can you set in place? What boundaries? But also, like, maybe it's like, what channels can you set in place? What fun can you set in place? And how can you show up that allows other people to feel really safe in your community? There's those steps. And I think it can be really executed on so many different levels, from the way that you show up to how you speak to what you're creating. Again, the channels, the events, who you bring in as speakers, that all needs to be taken into consideration on, is this going to make my community feel safe and help them show up as their authentic self? Again, just getting that one little piece of them to show up authentically, and them seeing you do that is going to be, they are not going to want to leave that energy. That energy is just everything. All right. So make sure you watch this. Make sure you get your questions, and I'm going to open up a little Q&A thread in there so you guys can ask questions. And then these will all come down. It is March 18th. So this is all going to come down March 25th next week. You have a full week to watch this. And then you're going to have a full week to get in on the $99 deal for the launch program. On 3/26, that $99 deal will come down and the price will go up $250. And at that point in time, that's when I will be announcing it. outside of our Discord into Twitter. Right now, it's very much in just our community. And because I want this to be special for you guys, for anybody who is in this masterclass with me right now going live. If you have any questions about that, let me know. It is going to be so good. And it is the next step after you create this amazing community. Once you're in a really good spot and all these pieces are in place, like that's when you get to launch. You know, it's not like you pick a launch date and try to fill your community. Community is always first and foremost. It is going through everything that we talked about, day 1, day 2, day 3, all the little segments in between, and really crafting something great. And again, if you don't get to it all, don't let it stop you. Start with one thing. Launch your Discord. Start with one thing. Check it off the list. Move to the next one, even if it's a week later. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Your energy is incredible in our Discord right now. I am so incredibly thankful for you. And I truly hope this helped. If you have feedback, make sure to leave it in the training feedback channel. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.